If your choices are not yours, you put your phone down. The room is gently dim. A small halo from the desk lamp spills onto the wall, where dust motes hang like tiny rain falling sideways. In the far corner, a cup of tea still sends up a thin ribbon of steam. You take a sip, and the warmth spreads down your throat, like a small stream slipping into a night forest. Everything feels peaceful. And in that moment that seems utterly simple, a question as soft as breath, yet sharp as a blade slowly enters your mind. What if the choices you believe are yours are not entirely yours at all? It sounds insulting. It is like someone just walked into your house and said, "This floor is not yours. You are only used to walking on it." But stay with this for a moment. Try looking at a tiny matter. Why did you choose tea instead of coffee just now? You might say, "It is late at night. Coffee will make it hard to sleep." That is a reasonable reason. But if you dig one layer deeper, why is hard to sleep so undesirable that it steers your action? Because you have an early morning tomorrow? Because your body once reeled after an all-nighter back in college? Because in your childhood kitchen, your mother often said, "It is late. Do not drink coffee or you will toss and turn." A simple sentence folded into the unconscious, quietly pulling a thread to your hand tonight, leading it to the tea instead of the coffee. A blink of an eye decision, yet behind it is a tangle of roots from memory, upbringing, hormones, circadian rhythms, social habits, sophisticated advertising, and a vague fear of being less alert tomorrow. But still, I chose tea. Yes, you did. The sense of ownership is very real. There is that tiny click in your chest when a decision drops like a pebble through water, neat and decisive. Yet, notice the odd thing. The path to that click was paved by countless invisible hands. An ocean of quiet signals has surrounded you for years, making tea feel more reasonable, safer, more you, before you could even be aware of the you. So, who set the stage? Who adjusted the lights, placed the instruments, and sketched the draft script so that when you walked out, the line, "I will have tea," sounded so natural it seemed to have just appeared? You might argue, even if I am influenced, I still have the power to change my mind. Absolutely. You can stand up, rinse the teacup, brew a strong coffee, and prove to yourself that you are free. Imagine you do exactly that. You scoop the grounds, pour in hot water, and the deep aroma rises like an overture. But at the very moment you lift the cup, a memory flashes. The last time you drank coffee late, you lay awake, listening to the clock hands twitch, and in the morning, your eyes burned. That memory is like a fingertip resting lightly on your wrist. You pause, you set the cup down, and a small voice in your head whispers, "Let it go. Tea for tonight." Does this mean free will does not exist? Not so fast. But admit this, at least in the smallest details, your will is softer than you think. It is not an iron bar propping up the sky. It is a blade of grass, bending with gusts from countless causes. Bittersweet memories, old reminders, letters never sent, the sweat of exam seasons. And while you feel that you are choosing, there is a very good chance you are receiving a decision prepared slowly, patiently, almost gently, by the entire world that has been living inside you. If that makes you uneasy, take it as a good sign. Unease means a fine crack has opened on the solid surface of the feeling that I am the absolute driver. Through a hair-thin crack, light slips in. Not the blinding glare of some grand truth, but the misty light of dawn that reveals faint veins on a leaf. You feel the pulse of a question. If what I call I decide is only the crest of the wave, while the long body of the wave is everything that has ever touched me, then where am I in all of this? Let the question rest. Do not debate it. Tonight we are not rushing to grab a hard answer. We only need enough quiet to hear a rare sound. The background hum of life that has always been playing, which we often drown out with other music. And perhaps, within that background, you will notice this. Even if you cannot control the source of every impulse, you still have a small space between impulse and action. A single breath, where you can simply watch. Sometimes it is that watching, not a will strung tight like a wire. That is the first step toward freedom. The night is not yet deep. The tea has cooled a little. You set the cup down, and we step forward, very softly, into the next part, peeling back the illusion of choice, to see why we can confidently explain a decision, even when that decision was not the one we originally made. The illusion of choice and the photo swap story. Picture a small experiment. In front of a participant are two photographs. They are asked to pick the one they prefer. Simple. They look, consider for a few seconds, then point, photo A. The researcher nods, smiles, hands them a photograph, and asks, "Can you tell me why you like this one?" The participant begins to explain smoothly. "I like the light at the corner of the subject's eye. I like the way the composition opens on the left." There is something gentle in the smile. Everything sounds coherent, except for one thing they do not know. At the handoff, the researcher deftly swapped the photos and gave them photo B, not the one they had chosen. You may react, "No way, I would notice." Perhaps you would. Many people do not. And the most interesting part is not that they fail to notice, but that they still confidently give reasons why photo B was their choice. The brain is not only easy to steer, it is very good at telling stories to mend any tear between reality and the feeling that I am the chooser. When it is nudged off course, it does not sound an alarm. It invents a reasonable story to preserve the image of I decide and I understand myself. Look more closely at everyday life, and you will see lighter versions of this photo swap everywhere. You go to the supermarket intending to buy your usual bag of rice. On the shelf, your usual brand sits slightly lower, while a new brand, with a clean white package and slender lettering, sits at eye level. You have always been practical and budget-minded. Yet that neat packaging brushes against an aesthetic that has been nurtured in you by glossy magazines for years. You pause long enough to pick it up. The label says, "Naturally grown, no preservatives." The word natural touches a value you hold dear. In that moment, outside factors, the shelf height, the package design, the word natural, form a tiny lever just strong enough to tilt your inner balance toward trying something new. At the door, if someone asks why you switched, you will have a reasonable story. I want to eat more healthfully. The story is true in the sense that it fits the identity you carry. It is not complete, because it skips the tiny details that nudged the choice in a split second. On another scale, social media is a sophisticated photo swap machine. You think you chose to watch video A, but the algorithm placed it right after a clip that made you laugh, and paired it with a title that tickled your curiosity. You tap, and it still feels like, I chose. Later, if anyone asks why you watch so much of this type of content, you will say, because I like to explore, because it helps my work, or because I want to relax. All of those can be true, yet they still do not tell the whole story about the unseen arrangements, the order of recommendations, the trending background music, the eye-catching colors, the heavy repetition that increases familiarity in your brain. And the familiar always feels more comfortable. None of this turns us into helpless dandelion seeds in the wind. On the contrary, understanding the illusion of choice gives rise to a subtle ability, noticing when a story in your head is only the plaster, smoothing the gap between an action and the ego that wants to remain intact. When you catch yourself explaining too smoothly, gently press pause and ask, is there a small detail I am skipping? Did someone place this item right at my eye level before I had time to think? Did a memory skim the bottom and make me lean? Simply asking opens a gap as small as a dust mote between impulse and reaction. In that gap, freedom stops being an iron bar and becomes a space, not to force the world, but to see how the world is trying to force you. You can try a small exercise tonight. When you are about to scroll for a few more minutes before sleep, look closely at your home screen. Ask, did what I am about to tap find me first, or did I find it? If the answer is, it found me, just watch the urge to tap the way you would watch a wave slide over the sea at night. No judgment, no suppression. Watch until the wave tires itself out. Then turn the screen off. If it is hard, that is all right. Try again tomorrow. It is like learning to hear the rain through a window. At first, you only hear the wind. Then gradually you can tell the droplets striking the frame, the distant hush, and even the quiet between two gusts. Here we begin to see the paradox. To be freer in choosing, sometimes we need less effort and more attention, less faith in the story we tell ourselves about why, and more stillness to see what is pushing. Freedom is not only the right to decide, it is also the ability to notice the invisible setting that guided the decision. And once you see that setting, sometimes the choice does not need to change. Yet the nature of the one who is choosing has changed. From this small step, we will climb to a broader question in the next part. If perception can be programmed this skillfully, what guarantees that the world you see is the world that is there, rather than a flawless performance crafted just for you? That is when we touch the thought experiment called the brain in a vat, where the boundary between living and dreaming turns hazy, like the steam over the rim of a teacup. Are you ready? Breathe in slowly, breathe out. We will continue, but keep the rhythm as light as footsteps on old wooden boards. Each creak a question, and each silence a door. Brain in a vat. When the world might be nothing more than an exquisitely precise screen. The night has deepened a little. The fan hums like the room's steady breath. You lie back and feel the mattress cradle your body like a quiet cloud. Before your eyelids close, step with me into an imagined room. An empty laboratory under cool white fluorescent lights. In the center sits a clear glass tank. Inside is a brain. No body, no eyes or nose, only living tissue, sustained by a stable biological solution. On a nearby rack, a bank of computers connects wires to regions of the brain, simulating every signal of the world: light, sound, smell, taste, pressure, temperature, even subtle emotional vibrations, like quiet sadness or a fleeting joy. That brain feels a warm home, a shoreline, a summer forest. It remembers a childhood. It loves someone. It fears a darkness. It hurts when betrayed. It is happy when it hears friends laugh. Everything is real within its experience. If so, the question is this: how could that brain know that its world is fake? And a second question, breathing down your neck: how do you know that your world is real? You might say, I can touch the table. The brain in the vat can touch a table because the tactile signal is programmed precisely. You say, I see the green of the leaf outside the window. The brain in the vat also sees green because signals to the visual cortex are firing along the right map. You say, I have 30 years of memories. The brain in the vat does too, because memory is a special kind of data attached in the right places. If every test we rely on passes through the 5 senses and our remembering, and if those senses plus memory can be perfectly simulated, what criterion is left to say, this is real? The point here is not to sow useless confusion. The point is to hold up a mirror to what feels obvious, that the world we see is the world that is there, that the thoughts we hear belong to me, that the chain of memories proves a continuous life. That mirror is not meant to deny life. It is meant to soften the rigidity of the belief that there is only one way to see. When belief softens, you suddenly hear sounds you had ignored, tiny noises in what you have been calling reality. Recall a recent dream. In the dream, you ran down a strange street, the sky falling like a blue curtain. You were sure you were awake, right up to the moment you woke and the room appeared, and you knew it had been a dream. What changed? Only a shift of state. Within the dream, Its internal consistency is enough for you to believe. You bump into a wall and feel pain. You read a message and feel sad. You talk to someone who has died and feel warm. Everything fits. Yet that perfect fit can still be a closed set, a stage with no visible backstage. The frightening part is not that everything is fake. The frightening part is that from inside the play, there is no absolute test to tell the difference. You might respond, but in real life I can verify with instruments and experiments. Yes, in the everyday play we share, science is extraordinarily powerful at peeling back illusions. It builds independent, repeatable measurements and reduces dependence on personal bias. Even so, every measurement returns to human experience at the last step. Reading the number, interpreting it, agreeing on it. Science is wonderful because it makes collective illusion less likely through systems of cross-checking. Yet at the highest level, the questions like, why is there this world rather than nothing at all? Or is there a simulator running this? Cannot be settled by science, because they are no longer about observations within the system, but about the source of the whole. So what do we do with this inability to verify absolutely? People often take one of two extremes. The first is radical doubt, where uncertainty makes everything feel meaningless. The second is radical ignoring, which says, do not think about it, just live. Both miss something precious. This not knowing can open a lighter and truer way to live. When we ease off the claim that there is only one correct world, we become less combative about our opinions, less attached to impulsive emotions, less obsessed with winning every argument. We listen more. We notice the static more. We recognize the moments when we are daydreaming with eyes open, when anger erects a coherent plot that convinces us the other person is the villain, or when fear paints a vivid future that we mistake for certainty. Here is a lovely paradox. When you accept that you may be moving through a layer of performance, you become more awake to each passing second. It is like a climber who knows the map may be wrong. So his eyes open wider to the traces on the ground, his ears tune in to the sound of water, and his skin feels for the direction of the wind. Epistemic humility does not weaken you. It increases the resolution of your presence. You do not need to be certain that this is the truest world in order to love this warm cup of tea, to feel grateful for the shoulder you lean on, or to let a tear fall when an old song plays. If anything, knowing that everything might be signals makes you treasure the gentleness of the signal that is playing now. A deeper breath, an opening in the chest, a thought that arrives and dissolves. If the brain in a vat has no tool to break the simulation, it still has one minimal freedom: how it responds. That is also your freedom, whether the world is real or constructed. You do not choose every signal that comes to you, but you can choose how to see them, as orders that demand a reaction, or as waves gliding over a lake, arriving, lingering a moment, then fading. In the gap between signal and response, a seed of freedom sprouts. It is small, yet it is enough to change a day, and sometimes a life. From this angle, brain in a vat stops being a philosophical jump scare and becomes a practice in alertness. Whenever you feel too certain that I am right, ask a small question. How certain am I exactly? What detail might I have ignored because it does not fit the story I am believing right now? Not to sink into endless doubt, but to soften one notch and open a new drawer in perception. That is how we live more awake, while still being on the stage. Once you are used to seeing the world as a performance that can feel utterly real, you will be ready to step into another experiment, just as gentle yet sharp. The experience machine. If there were a device that could give you perfect happiness that is not real, would you plug in? That question touches a deeper value. In the end, what makes a life worth living? The feeling or the truth? Keep your breath slow. We will touch it very lightly in the next part. Signs of the invisible vat and how to walk through it without panicking. If brain in a vat is a mirror, then daily life is the fine dust on that mirror that helps you notice it is there. You do not live in a laboratory. and you do not see any cable plugging into your head. Yet an invisible vat can still be at work in your day, a subtle enclosure around you, feeding signals in and blocking signals out. You can recognize it by a few small signs. This moment is a magnified snapshot of ordinary life. We want to control things in order to feel safe. Yet it is that very act of tightening our grip that makes us lose control. This is not just in sleep. In an argument with someone you love, the more you try to deliver the final conclusion, the higher your voice rises, the colder your eyes become. By the time silence falls, you no longer know what exactly you have won and what exactly you have lost. In work, the more you push yourself to finish everything tonight, the more tired your brain becomes, the slower your hands move, and the more mistakes you make. In healing, the more you command your mind to be peaceful right now, the more restless you become in the face of your own restlessness. We usually have only two buttons: push harder or give up. But there is a third path, as thin as a thread and as strong as the vein of a leaf: adjusting the grip. Not holding so tight that it breaks, not letting go so that it falls, but holding just enough. In sleep, that might be a bare decision. It is fine if I do not sleep. I will just lie still, breathe slowly, and let my body do its part. In an argument, it might be a very small pause. Am I searching for truth or for victory? Then lower your voice and say a descriptive statement instead of an accusation. In work, it might be breaking the goal of finish everything into one doable action and a time commitment short enough that your nervous system does not feel threatened. Imagine 3 circles layered on top of each other. The innermost circle contains the things you can affect within one breath: your posture, the rhythm of your speech, your gaze, the position of your body in the room, your typing speed, the way you place your hand over your heart. The next circle contains the things you can influence indirectly through process: your sleep habits, the way you schedule, your listening skills, your note-taking method. The outermost circle contains the things beyond your personal will in the short term: other people's emotions, the weather, algorithms, unexpected events. The paradox begins to dissolve when you return each matter to its correct circle. We exhaust ourselves trying to grab the outer circle, while neglecting the inner one. Try this in a quarrel. You cannot control the other person's memories. Outer circle. You have not yet managed to change the resentments built up over years. Middle circle. But you can drop your shoulders, ease your jaw, inhale slowly for 3 counts, and say, I want to understand this part. Can we pause for 1 minute? Inner circle. Often, just one correct circle action shifts the entire situation. Not because you are enlightened, but because the human nervous system picks up signals of safety before it picks up logic. And you have just sent a tiny piece of safety. Many people fear the word letting go because they mistake it for giving up. In truth, letting go means dropping the wrong effort so you can invest in the right one. You do not let go of sustainable goals. You let go of the illusion that you can bend everything to your will instantly. You do not let go of responsibility. You let go of the need to prove yourself every second. You do not let go of love. You let go of controlling how the other person responds. When the wrong force falls away, you have room to hold the right one. Steady, consistent, quiet, unshowy. The kind of force that builds a house rather than a tent. There is a small, nameless technique you can use at any time. Stop. Move your eyes away from the stimulus for half a second. Name. Call out exactly what has just surged up. Anger, fear of running out of breath, desire to win. Nudge. Choose one inner circle action. Drop your shoulders, lower your voice, slow down by 10%, take a sip of water, take 1 step back. These 3 moves do not solve the problem in a dramatic sense, but they change the background from tense to soft. And on a soft background, solutions appear more naturally not because you suddenly became smarter, but because the brain that was already smart from the beginning just needs less alarm to function. You can try this immediately with sleep. Instead of ordering your brain to sleep, give the orders to your room. Turn off extra lights. Cover up small green LEDs. Open the window for a cool breeze. Put the phone out of reach. Then give orders to your body. Relax your forehead, cheeks, and tongue. Place your hand on your belly. Count from 1 to 10, then return to 1. If you still cannot sleep, accept it. Lie still and call it I rest time. Do not try to reach a meditative state. Just be. You will be surprised. When you stop forcing, the body often finishes the journey on its own. The same applies to work. Whenever you notice yourself clenching, ask, is this force pushing the work forward, or is it just pushing fear out of my chest? If it is the latter, allow yourself to break the goal into smaller pieces. Write one first sentence. Check one single item. Send one single email. One truly ordinary step is more reliable than 1,000 brilliant ideas. And strangely, becoming smaller is the only way to grow without breaking. Finally, with someone you love, try a simple agreement. When one person is too tense, they have the right to request 90 seconds of silence. In those 90 seconds, do not walk away. Do not pick up the phone. Do not give a speech. Just stand a little closer, breathe, and let your nervous systems sink again. 90 seconds will not solve a decade-long problem, but it will change the background for the 91st second, where an apology might pass through instead of bouncing back. When control and letting go stop wrestling, you discover something both delightful and ordinary. You do not need to win to be free. Freedom sometimes is simply not needing to win in this moment. So you have enough clarity to choose the right circle of action, the right amount of force, the right small step. And right there, a strange kind of peace appears, soft yet enduring, light yet deep, like the steady breathing of a room when you have stopped trying to command the night. When the three experiments meet, and you stand still long enough to see, look back at the three doors we have just passed through: the illusion of choice, the brain in a vat, and the experience machine. All three, in different ways, point to one place: the gap between the signal and the response. In that gap, what you call me is neither a manipulated audience nor an all-powerful director. It is like a gentle gatekeeper, with the right to open or close the gate slightly, deciding which signals pass through, at what pace, and in what tone. You can try a small, quiet as a falling leaf exercise. Sit upright for 2 minutes. You do not need to meditate by the book. Just sit and count your exhales. Each time a thought intrudes a to-do list for tomorrow, a face, an old sentence, do not fight it. Just watch it arrive, like watching a cloud. Then return to counting from 1. Something strange will happen. You will realize thoughts come without you calling them, and thoughts leave without you chasing them. In those 2 minutes, I is no longer the maker or the destroyer, but the witness. And from that witnessing position, you can choose, do I follow this or not? Do I respond with words, with silence, with a nod, or with a glass of water? At the peak of awareness, a deep paradox unfolds. Letting go is not dropping everything, but returning everything to its proper place. Thoughts to the place of thoughts. Emotions to the place of emotions. The body to the place of the body. When each part stands in its place, what you call will suddenly becomes wider, gentler. It is no longer the giving orders of a general. It is the soft discipline of a craftsman. One hand holding, one hand adjusting, patient, precise, repeated, without flash. You will see this in very small things. You open your phone, and a bright video calls to you. You want to watch. You do not scold yourself. You also do not vow, from now on, I quit completely. You watch the desire to watch for 3 counts. If it is still there, you allow 1 clip, mute the sound, and set a timer for 60 seconds. When 60 seconds are up, you put it down, not because you won, but but because you kept your word to yourself. The first time, it feels clumsy, like writing with your non-dominant hand. By the 10th time, you notice a layer of freedom has thickened. In relationships, the most beautiful crack appears when two people accept that differences are not problems to be fixed, but terrains to learn to walk. You stop trying to bend the other person into your map. Instead, you add skills for walking that terrain, asking again when unclear, agreeing to disagree for now, postponing the talk when one is tired. Truth in love rarely lies in a win-lose truth. It lies in the commitment to continue even when the map is bumpy. And that commitment is only possible if each has their own gap to cool down. Then return willingly, not dragged back. In work, standing still long enough to see might be the habit of a 10-minute review before ending the day. Not to judge yourself, but to retell. Which signals pulled me today? How did I respond? Where could I reduce the wrong force by 10% and increase the right force by 10%? Just one. Tomorrow, make only that one adjustment. After a few weeks, you see something delightful. Productivity rises not because you tried harder, but because friction in the system decreased. You are no longer fighting yourself so much. As for yourself, the climax is not a blazing, ecstatic moment. It is more like a quiet discovery. I am not what just ran through my head. I am the background on which everything runs. From that background, you begin to forgive old versions of yourself. The child who was afraid, the young adult who was hot-tempered, the grown-up who loved while on guard. Forgiveness is not erasure. Forgiveness is making room for all of them to coexist within you, without having to win or lose. When you no longer push any part of yourself outside, you demand less for the world to be perfect your way. And strangely, at that moment, the world becomes more lovable not because it changed, but because your eyes did. If I had to wrap up this part with one image, I would choose the hand holding a small bird. Hold too tightly, it suffocates. Open too widely, it flies away. Hold just right, it stays still for a moment, hears your heartbeat, and might even stay longer than you thought. Control is the closing. Letting go is the opening. Wisdom is knowing the degree of opening for the right bird, at the right time of day, in the right breeze. Before ending, I invite you to a 3-minute nightly ritual. Minute 1. Write down one thing today you held just right, not too tight, not dropped. Minute 2. Write down one place you gripped too hard and one inner circle action you can try tomorrow. Minute 3. Place your hand over your heart, breathe slowly, and whisper, enough. No rallying cries, just an acknowledgement that you have seen. When the lights go out, you might still not sleep immediately. That is fine. You have changed the background of the night from a battle to a room with a gentle gatekeeper. And on that background, the next parts will be easier. We will bring this just right grip into bigger questions like responsibility, limits, and the truth in promises to ourselves to see how a deep life does not need a drumbeat, only the steady rhythm of breath to resonate. A new paradox, yet still yourself. The night has settled into stillness, like a lake without ripples. You lie on your side, hand resting lightly on your chest, listening to the steady beat. And I will tell you an old story. The ship of Theseus. They say there was a wooden ship that sailed the seas for many years. Waves and storms wore it down, so the sailors replaced each rotting plank. Every season, a few more planks were replaced, until one day, every single original plank had been replaced. The question arose, is it still the same old ship? If not, then at what point did it cease to be itself when the first plank was replaced, or the last? If yes, then what makes it still itself when every part has changed? The story does not end there. People gathered the old planks and built another ship identical in material. Which one is truly Theseus? One that has continuous shape but completely new parts? Or one that has the original material but a new structure? However you ask it, You touch a blurry boundary between form, function, collective memory, and something hard to name: identity. Then we turn to you. In this still body lying here, most of your cells have been replaced over the years. New skin has grown. New blood has been made. Neural pathways have been strengthened in some places and pruned in others. Even memories, the things you believe to be solid, are rewritten a little each time they are called up to remember before being stored again. You replace planks every day without noticing. So which ship are you? The continuous structure ship or the original material ship? And when, in this chain of replacements, do we say, "This is still me"? And when must we admit, "This is different now"? In daily life, this paradox quietly shapes choices that seem simple. You introduce yourself: "I am an introvert," then behave according to that label as if it were a plank fixed forever. You say, "I always wake up late," so each night you allow yourself another 20 minutes of scrolling. You declare, "I cannot handle conflict," so you avoid hard conversations every time. Labels are like nameplates bolted to the side of a ship. They help others recognize you, help you feel temporarily at ease. But they can also make you forget that the planks underneath are being replaced every day, quietly, steadily. Remember the child you once were, the child who was afraid of the dark, who cried over a kite string breaking. Where is that child now? Gone? Or living on in the way you forgive small breakages more quickly? In the way your heart still softens when you hear an old song? If every part has changed, why do certain melodies touch you as if it were the first time? If every part has changed, why can an old embarrassment rise to your cheeks the moment it is mentioned? It seems that beyond parts and materials, there is a current you call me, a trajectory of habits, values, and bonds, a current that is continuous yet allows change, like a river that is still that river today, even though the water is not the water from yesterday. The theseus paradox suddenly feels intimate when we look at relationships. Two people love each other through the years. Jobs change, cities change, friends change, new scars layer over old ones. They often argue over a vague feeling: "You are not the person you used to be." The statement is true in one sense. The planks have been replaced. But it is also false in another. That trajectory remains only now the ship is heading toward a wider sea, requiring new sailing skills. If you cling to the old map, you declare war on the very life of the thing you love. Loving someone means agreeing to change one small plank with them each day, and having the courage to name that ship, familiar yet strange, without forcing it back to the old harbor. With yourself, the question is even sharper. What within me is worth keeping, and what should I let go of? If you keep everything, the ship becomes heavy and cannot travel far. If you throw away everything, there is no one left at the helm. Between those two shores lies a silent art, the art of preserving the core. The core is not a fixed statement, like, "I am this kind of person." The core is more like a direction, gentle before the truth, kind in the face of mistakes, brave before fear, loyal to what you know is right after you have listened enough. That direction allows you to change planks without losing the ship, to acknowledge this is different without collapsing. You might object, but if I keep changing, will there come a time when I no longer recognize myself? Yes. And sometimes that is necessary. There are versions of me that are only born to walk a certain stretch of the path and then step aside. Like a crutch that helps a leg heal. When you put it down, you are not betraying the crutch. You are fulfilling its promise to walk on without it. In the same way, there are beliefs that once saved you from the dark, but now they lower the ceiling. To be grateful and then gently remove them is not ingratitude. It is loyalty to what that belief was protecting in the first place: life. If so, then each night before sleeping, you can have a small ritual. Inspect the ship. Ask softly, which plank today has rotted? Which plank is still strong? Which direction will I keep tomorrow? Not to judge yourself, but to see the healthy current of change flowing. Like sitting at the side of the ship, hearing the water lap, knowing clearly the ship is moving, not drifting. That feeling, strangely enough, is very soothing. You do not have to be identical to yesterday to still be truly yourself today. And when your eyes close, you might hear a friendly question tapping against the hull. If tomorrow I change a little, 10% softer, 10% slower, 10% more honest, am I losing something? Or am I returning to something? Do not rush to find an answer. Let it drift with the sound of the waves. Your ship, no matter how many planks are replaced, is still heading toward a wider place where the self and the living moment are no longer two separate marks. Practicing identity recognition and reconstruction in daily life. Now let us bring the Theseus ship into the harbor of daily life, where there are no philosophers waiting, but work schedules, loved ones, bills, and quiet moments before sleep. What does replacing planks mean here? First, it means changing language. Language is the screw that holds labels in place. We often say, I am a procrastinator. Try changing it to, lately, I have been procrastinating. One word lately opens the door to other possibilities. The word am turns behavior into identity. Lately turns it into a habit, and habits can be changed. Change one word, and you have loosened one plank. Next, change the evidence. The brain believes in evidence, but it often records only what fits the current label. If you believe I am clumsy, your brain will store every blunder and ignore the times you did well. Create a small habit. Each night, write down one piece of evidence against your worst self-label. Today I called to apologize. Today I sent the email on time. You do not need many. One line is enough. After a few weeks, a new framework forms. You start to see the ship turning. Then, change the environment, because the invisible tank, as we spoke of in Part 2, often determines how hard it is to replace a plank. If you want to scroll less mindlessly, change the position of your phone at night. Place it far from the bed. Turn off all glaring red notifications. Set the screen to black and white. If you want to be gentler in arguments, change the space. Stand half a step closer. Sit at an L-shaped angle instead of directly opposite. A seating change alters body language, and body language changes the feeling of safety. These small changes do not lift the weight of willpower. They reduce friction, making it easier for your better abilities to emerge. 3 plank replacement practices before bed. Light, specific, not loud. 1. Remove a label. Write down a self-label from today. I am useless. I am hot-tempered. Change it into a context-based behavior. Today I handled X slowly. At 3 p.m., I spoke loudly. Context immediately reduces the power of the label. 2. Keep the direction. Write one direction you want to stay loyal to for the next 24 hours. Gentle with the truth. Kind when wrong. Brave to speak honestly. Not a grand goal, just the direction. 3. One new plank. Choose one small action that carries that direction. Send a specific thank you to someone in 2 sentences. Clean one drawer. Set 30 minutes for the hardest task, and do exactly 30 minutes. When done, do not praise yourself loudly. Just quietly say, 1 plank replaced. In relationships, replacing planks is relearning how to see each other. Today your partner comes home late, and you are ready to write a tragic novel. They no longer prioritize me. Replacing the plank here is not forcing yourself to think the opposite. They are amazing. It is opening more possibilities. Maybe they are tired. Maybe they were stuck in traffic. Maybe they are afraid of something. Not to erase your sadness or anger, but to reduce the certainty of the story you tell. Reduce certainty by 1 notch, and the heart becomes 1 notch softer. When the heart softens, dialogue can return. In work, replacing planks is separating performance from process. Performance is the moment you need to shine. The presentation, the deadline, the big meeting. Process is what is not flashy, but keeps the ship alive. Scheduling, cleaning data, drafting, checking. We burn out when we demand peak performance all the time. We progress when we are consistent. Give each day a non-negotiable process moment. 10 minutes to review a checklist, 10 minutes to draft. Those 10 minutes are the nails that hold the new planks tight to the frame, so that when performance comes, you do not have to strain until you break. With yourself, replacing planks is also changing the way you remember. Each person carries a few scratches. The way you tell the story of those scratches determines their weight in the ship. If you tell it in a way that closes you down, "This happened to me, so I am broken," the scratch becomes a hole. If you tell it in a way that opens you, "This happened to me, so I am sensitive to the pain of those like me," the scratch becomes a vein. This is not about painting the past rosy, but choosing an angle that lets the scratch serve the direction. There will be days you feel tired, like you replaced 3 planks only for the rain to pour immediately. Remember this: not replacing is also replacing, because the sea still wears the planks down. The question is not to replace or not, but whether to replace consciously or let time replace for you. When you choose to replace one small plank yourself, you send your nervous system an important message: I am still at the helm. That feeling, however fragile, is medicine for a long night. A beautiful paradox appears when you practice long enough. You begin to fear change less, because you no longer equate change with losing yourself. On the contrary, you see each small change in the right direction as a return to clarity, kindness, and original courage that life's noise sometimes made you lose. You do not have to climb into a better version of yourself to be loved. You are simply removing the rotten planks to be closer to the ship that always wanted to carry you forward. Before closing this section, try 1 minute of stillness. Place your hand over your heart, breathe slowly, and whisper, "I give myself permission to be a little different tomorrow." No extravagant promises, just permission. In that permission, there is space for your ship, overnight, to shift by 1 degree. And so, day after day, yourself is not a statue to be preserved, but a piece of music, being rearranged, still the same melody, but richer in instruments, more refined in rhythm, and knowing better where to pause. Down into mud. The paradox lies here. Truth spoken like a knife often closes the heart, while truth spoken like a lamp opens it. The content can be the same, but the difference is in how you place it in the other person's hands. Let us start with an ordinary example. You notice your partner has been coming home late for weeks, asking fewer questions, and conversations are staying on the surface. The knife version would say, "You are so careless." That sentence carries a label, a judgment, and a conclusion about character. Instantly, the door of defensiveness swings open. Who says I am careless? I have been busy with work. But if you switch to the lamp version, lately, when you come home late, I feel empty and worry that we are drifting apart. I would like us to have dinner this Thursday with no screens, just the 2 of us. The same reality, but you present it in 3 clear layers. 1. A specific event, coming home late. 2. Your feelings empty, worried. 3. A small, measurable request. Thursday evening, no screens. No labels, no blame. No, you are the kind of person who, the lamp turns on, and the room is bright enough for both to see without blinding anyone. You might call this the 4-piece formula. When specific event, without interpretation, I feel real emotion, 1 or 2 words. Because what matters to me, value, I want. I suggest small, measurable action with time. For example, when my emails were replied to late 3 times this week, I felt tense and a bit abandoned because I value clarity in the team. I would like us to confirm tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Who is doing which part, just 10 minutes. This way, you place the truth on the table like an object with shape and size, instead of throwing it like a weight at someone's face. But formula is only the frame. The tone is the soul. A correct sentence with the wrong tone still becomes a knife. Choose a pace 10% slower, a volume half a notch lower, and a 3-breath pause before saying the "I want" part. Those 3 beats are not for dramatic effect. They give the other person the power to feel, "I see you here." In that brief pause, their nervous system has a chance to lower its guard, and you have a chance to hear yourself again, to see if what you are about to say is the necessary truth or just a passing wave. A big misunderstanding about speaking truth is believing that the straighter it is, the better. In reality, straight does not have to mean harsh. Bamboo is straight because it is flexible. Metal is straight because it is rigid and brittle. Flexibility comes from the ability to stand in the other person's shoes for a minute, measure their capacity to receive, and choose the right strength so the message gets through without breaking. Speaking the truth does not mean speaking it immediately. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for the truth is hold it for another 24 hours to remove its dumping quality. In that time, you reframe the sentence from "you are wrong" to "I see this, I worry about that, I hope for this." The truth is not lost, it finds its path. There are also times when you must bring a very hard truth into the room. A boundary, a decision, a goodbye. Compassion here is not avoidance. It is in how you present it. You do not craft a 10-point indictment, nor do you wrap it into a fairy tale to soothe. You go straight to the core, own your part, and keep the door open for what they need to say. A thin but strong example. My truth is that I cannot continue this way. My part in creating this was A and B. I respect your feelings, and I am ready to hear what you need to say, today or in a few days. I hope we can treat each other kindly through this process. Here, truth does not bow its head, it kneels, and that is very different. To make gentle truth-telling a habit of the body, not just a theory, you can practice a 2-minute ritual before a difficult conversation. Write 1 sentence stating the event without interpretation. Write 2 emotion words without a speech. Write 1 value that was touched. Write 1 small request with a specific time and duration. Read it quietly. Lower your shoulders. Release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Then step in. Every big conversation begins with such a small move. When you learn the language of placing the lamp, something strange happens. Not only do others find it easier to hear you, you also fear the truth less. Because you know you have a way to bring it into the room without breaking the room. The truth stops being a weapon to hide and becomes a light to adjust. And when a room is bright enough, people rarely need to shout. When the heart opens first, and the mind follows. If gentle truth-telling is one half of the bridge, then hearing the truth without raising a shield is the other half. Many conversations fall apart not because the truth is too sharp, but because in the very first moment, we lock the latch. All it takes is one label hitting the ear: careless, unprofessional, selfish, and the nervous system sounds the alarm. The body tightens a fraction, the eyes narrow slightly, the voice sharpens. From that second on, we stop listening. We start looking for ammunition to fire back. The paradox is, the more defensive we are, the easier we are to hurt, because we miss the only thing that could ease the pressure in us: real information. We will build the habit of listening using 3 bowls. Bowl 1. Event. What specific thing is the other person describing? Time, action, number. Bowl 2. Emotion. What are they feeling? Sad, irritated, worried, hurt. Bowl 3. What matters? Which value or need of theirs is being touched? Respect, clarity, closeness, fairness. When you are triggered, do not drop bowl 1 to jump straight into justification. Fill all 3 bowls back up in your own words, slowly. Let me try to repeat. When I replied late twice this week, you felt abandoned, and you value clarity. Is that right? Such a reflection is not an admission of guilt. It is an opening of the door. And often, once all three bowls are full, the speaker's voice naturally lowers because they feel seen. You might worry, what if I reflect back incorrectly and they think I am faking it? Then ask a warm question. Where am I missing something? That question is like turning the lamp toward them. It hands them the ownership to clarify, and that reduces defensiveness for both. Here is another small but powerful skill. Name the shield. When you feel yourself about to counterattack, say out loud what is happening inside. I feel tense, and I want to defend myself. Give me 30 seconds to breathe, and I will listen again. This keeps the connection while caring for your nervous system. It stops the cycle of half listening, firing back, escalation. In those 30 seconds, lower your shoulders, release your jaw, let your eyes rest on a still object, the corner of a table, a painting, and count 3 breaths. Then return with an open question. So, what is the most important part for you here? You are bringing the ball back to the center field. To make listening without defensiveness sustainable, agree on ground rules with your partner or colleagues when both are calm. One speaks, one listens. The listener does not jump in with explanations for the first 2 to 3 minutes. No labeling of character. Ban phrases like, "You are the kind of person who," or "You always." The right to request a 90-second pause. Either person may use it when their nervous system goes on high alert. Maximum of 3 points. In each turn, share no more than 3 points. Beyond that, information turns into bricks. In work, try steel manning. Present the strongest version of the opposing view before stating your own. For example, from your perspective, prioritizing speed makes perfect sense because of A, B, and C. I missed point A at first. My concern is the quality risk at part X. I suggest a 15-minute checkpoint. When you carry part of the other person's reasoning for them, the whole room gets a boost of oxytocin, a kind of social glue, and something unusual happens. They carry part of your concern in return. The bridge takes shape. Of course, there are times when the truth someone gives you is unfair, full of interpretation, labels, accusations. Listening without defensiveness does not mean infinite endurance. It means standing firmly in your ground while separating what is useful from the arrows. A concise but gentle line. I want to hear the facts and their impact on you. I will not accept labels about my character, selfish, careless. If I have hurt you, I am sorry for the impact. I do not agree with the label. That is a soft boundary, taking responsibility for actions, returning what does not belong to you. You can strengthen your listening muscles with a small nightly exercise. Revisit a conversation from the day. Write down the other person's 3 bowls. Event emotion. What matters? If you are unsure, add a question you could have asked. After a few weeks, you will notice your ears hearing deeper, your eyes seeing wider, and the best part, your heart will be softer, not because you are weaker, but because you fear the truth less. When gentle truth-telling meets listening without defensiveness, something strange happens. Difficult conversations are no longer battlefields. They become small carpentry shops where 2 people sand words, fit ideas, measure rhythm, and smooth the shared story. Mistakes still happen, scraps still fall, but at the end of the day, something stands in the middle of the room. Trust. Not blind trust. Trust that has been tested. Before closing this section, here is a 3-step, 3-minute ritual for any upcoming difficult conversation. Step 1. Place the lamp. Write the 4 pieces. When I feel, because I want. Step 2. Prepare the ears 3 bowls. Event, emotion. What matters? Step 3. Soft boundary. 1 sentence. I take responsibility for the impact. I do not accept labels about my character. Fold it, exhale, touch your hand to your chest. You are ready. A daily harmony. Living with impermanence and still having direction. You have walked with me through many doors. The illusion of choice, the brain in a vat, the experience machine, then the just right grip between control and release. The ship of Theseus, where identity changes but remains continuous. The soft anchor of commitment, gentle truth and boundaries, and forgiveness. Now we will do something quiet yet significant. Arrange them into a harmony for one day of living. This is not a handbook for success in 24 hours. It is a melody you can play softly each day, so that at night, when your head touches the pillow, you can hear one thin thread running through scattered moments. Imagine a day as 4 watches of time: early dawn, midday, late afternoon, and night. In each watch, you choose one musical line you have learned. Early dawn, set a direction, and open your eyes to illusions. When you first wake, do not grab the phone. Spend 30 seconds looking at the ceiling and notice, I am not the thoughts that are about to arrive. This is a nod to the brain in a vat. You do not need to jump into the script. Write one sentence for your direction today, such as kindness, honesty, or courage. That is your soft anchor. Choose one plank you will replace in an everyday way, such as 15 minutes of difficult reading, an apology email, or cleaning one drawer. That is Theseus in daily life. Before leaving the bed, count 5 slow breaths with a hand on your belly, and say to yourself, today I will notice the invisible push before I respond. This is a greeting to the illusion of choice. Midday. Do not fast forward. Do not perform. When you meet a small machine, such as a short clip, hot news, or a shortcut to quick pleasure, use 3 questions as a filter. Am I seeking sensation or truth? Is this a numbing agent or a healing action? Who is the author of my next minute? If it is a numbing agent, take 1 sip and put it down. If it is healing, open a full 5 minutes for it. In a conversation, use the 4-piece lamp sentence. When a specific event happens, I feel a real emotion because a certain value matters to me, and I want a small request at a specific time. Slow your speech by 10% and pause for 3 breaths before the request. You are playing the note called gentle truth. If you feel tense, press the 3-step button. Stop, name, adjust. One inner circle move, such as dropping your shoulders, taking a sip of water, or stepping back half a step, can change the key of the music. Late afternoon. Commit small enough that it can be lived. Open a calendar block of 25 minutes of deep work for the hardest task. Turn off notifications and tell anyone who needs to know. This is the anchor that keeps the ship on course. When you hit a friction point, like procrastination or self-anger, design friction, or a runway, move the application to a folder called Later. Switch the screen to black and white and hide red notification badges. Keep a draft file open so starting is easy. Do not fight your willpower. Lower the resistance so the good intention can pass. In the team, try steel manning. Present the strongest version of the opposing view before giving feedback. The room becomes warmer and the reasoning becomes sharper. Night boundaries and forgiveness. Then fall asleep like a gentle gatekeeper. Create a personal hour in the 60 to 90 minutes before sleep with no screens. Give it a name, I rest. If you slip, use the return chain. Put the phone down, drink water, take 5 breaths, and return to bed. Skip the self-punishment speech. Review very briefly for 2 to 3 minutes. 1 promise kept, 1 place you slipped, and 1 small adjustment for tomorrow. Practice a soft boundary by writing 1 kind no for tomorrow. For example, thank you for the invitation. I am protecting time for this priority, so I will pass. Practice conscious forgiveness with the 5-5-5. Touch the body for 5 breaths. Write 5 lines for truth, impact, value, boundary, and 1 thing you appreciate. And whisper 5 words for the password. Release the weight, keep the boundary. Fold the paper and take 1 warm sip. You may say, it sounds like a lot. Remember the paradoxical rule. Less forcing, more noticing. One move in each watch of the day is enough. One set of 5 counted breaths instead of an entire curriculum. One apology email instead of an overhaul. One well-placed no instead of 10 hesitant maybes. One night of eye rest instead of a month of exhaustion. In that rhythm, a quiet discovery appears. Meaning does not come from winning and losing. It comes from the continuity you create between small pieces of life. In the morning, you remember you are not your thoughts. At noon, you speak truth without using a knife. In the afternoon, you hold one anchor. At night, you set down a burden without lowering your standards. 4 simple notes repeated, and eventually, the harmony rises without an orchestra. There, you do not need to be certain whether the world is a simulation in order to live fully. You only need enough clarity to respond instead of to shove. You do not need to settle the philosophy of free will to keep one small promise to the person who will be you tomorrow. You do not need to be perfect to soften a sentence by 10%. These minimal moves, placed in the right spots, bring you home. Try it tonight. Listen to the fan. Listen to the night touch the door. Ask quietly, tomorrow, which note in my harmony needs to be a little clearer? Do not force an answer. It will arrive on its own, like a gentle knock on a familiar door. A day passing through your hands. A 24-hour field exercise, a minimal version with depth. Let us transcribe the harmony into a 24-hour field exercise. It is extremely compact, measurable, rough enough for meaning to stick, and soft enough so your nervous system does not revolt. Treat this as a frame, not a chain. Adjust the tempo to fit your life. Preparation. 5 minutes tonight or tomorrow morning. Fold one small paper into 3 sections for direction as one sentence, anchor as one 25-minute task, and return chain for what you will do in 30 seconds when you slip. Place a pen by the bed. Charge the phone outside the bedroom or out of reach, and switch it to black and white with badges off. Prepare 1 cup of warm water. Morning, 7 minutes or less. Look at the ceiling for 30 seconds and say, I am not the thoughts. Write one direction by hand. For example, gentle truth. Choose one very small plank to replace with a specific time of 10 to 15 minutes. Take 5 breaths with a hand on the belly and remind yourself, notice the push before I respond. Send one specific line of appreciation to someone by text. For example, thank you for waiting for me last night so we could eat together. This is an anchor for connection. Before noon, one deep work block of 25 minutes. Set a timer for 25 minutes for the hardest task. Turn off notifications. If you are writing, start with 3 sentences. If you are reviewing, begin with 3 items. If you are cleaning files, take 3 small steps. When the time ends, write 1 line about what you did. No self-judgment. 1 conversation. 10 to 20 minutes. Prepare for 2 minutes by writing the 4 pieces. When, I feel, because, I want. In the room, slow down by 10% and pause for 3 breaths before the I want part. Listen with the 3 bowls by reflecting 1 sentence that includes the event, the emotion, and what matters to them. Add a soft boundary if needed, such as, if I respond after 9:30 in the evening, the answer is no. Midday, small machine and friction. Before opening an addictive application, set a timer for 2 minutes. When it rings, put the phone down. If you slip, use the 30-second return chain by standing up, drinking water, and taking 5 breaths. Add 1 rough step, such as a 5-minute walk outdoors or a 60-second stretch. Small roughness can change the background. Afternoon, steel manning and process commitment for 15 to 30 minutes. If it is a team task, write 3 strong points for the opposing view before sending feedback. Lock tomorrow's deep work block of 25 minutes and title it with a clear verb and object, such as review items 1 to 3, not work on project X. Evening, I rest, and 555 in 15 minutes or less. Keep 60 to 90 minutes before sleep as I rest. If someone needs urgent contact, Agree on a window ahead of time. Do a 2-minute review. One promise kept, one slip, and one small adjustment for tomorrow. Use 555 for conscious forgiveness on a matter that still weighs on your chest. Write one kind no for tomorrow and place it in drafts. Bedtime. The gentle gatekeeper for 2 to 3 minutes. Place your hand on your belly and count 10 breaths. Whisper 2 passwords, enough, and continue tomorrow. If you do not fall asleep yet, practice eye rest. Give yourself permission not to sleep. Simply lie still and breathe. Often that permission opens the door to sleep. You can see that each small section is one note you have learned. The whole day is the arrangement. On some days, you will lose the beat. That is fine. Suspend the sentence and review tomorrow with new evidence, which is one small action you did. With practice, you notice the underground fiber. Will is no longer a single strain. It is soft discipline repeated at the important places. Letting go is no longer dropping. It is returning things to where they belong. When this harmony ripens, a peaceful paradox takes shape. You walk as if standing still, not because you stop moving, but because the waves do not drag you. You change as if returning, not because you go back, but because you come closer to the core. You speak as if you shine a light, not because you are sharp, but because you place the lamp correctly. You forgive as if you keep, not because you lower standards, but because you change how the debt is carried, the room you have never left. We have traveled a long loop together, from the illusion of choice with invisible hands setting the stage, to the brain in a vat that gives us the courage to admit that inside the show there is no absolute measure. From the experience machine that reminds us pleasure can be programmed while meaning grows slowly on uneven ground, to the just right grip that opens a path between control and surrender. We replaced planks on the ship of Theseus, that is identity, and we set a soft anchor so freedom is not swept away. We learned to place the lamp to tell the truth without wounding, to listen without raising a shield, to build soft boundaries so our yes can be deeper, and to practice conscious forgiveness that sets down the burden without lowering the bar. Then we blended them into a day with rhythm. Now, before the night closes, we will not add anything new. We will remove a final layer of confusion, the belief that you must become someone else to deserve a peaceful life. The gentle truth is that you already have that room, the room of the gentle gatekeeper. Along the way, we did not build from nothing. We simply pointed you back to the door. Imagine the room again. It is neither large nor small. There is enough light to see the chair and enough darkness to sleep. On the table sits a paper folded into 3 parts for direction, anchor, and return chain. In the corner, there is a small clock whose rhythm runs steady like breath. When a loud thought barges in, you do not need a strategy. You place your hand on the doorknob, check the hinges, then adjust the opening. Today, I open the door for gentle truth, and I close it a bit to the hot headlines. When a feeling floods like water, you do not slam a dam. You carve a riverbed by naming it, giving it flow, and placing a small anchor at the dock with one inner circle move that can be measured. We like to tell paradox stories as doors, because each door opens a new view. But you already know that all the doors open into one room, presence. There you see will and letting go are not 2 opposing camps. Will is the schedule of kindness. Letting go is the environment of wisdom. A schedule that is too tight dries out wisdom. An environment that is too loose washes away kindness. Just right is the rhythm between the two. You may ask, so tomorrow, what do I need to do to keep the room? Not much. One anchor, one soft boundary, one sentence of truth. Let life do its part. It will present a slightly inconvenient situation, send a face you love, and sprinkle a little dust on the table so you have something to wipe. Living well is probably not a parade with flags. It is returning everything to the right circle, habits to the process circle, voice to the body circle, goals to the time circle, kindness to the people circle. And if tomorrow you forget everything and return to the old version by scrolling too late, arguing too loudly, or sagging too long, it is all right. The room does not move. It waits just behind the doorknob. Your return chain is there, thin and strong. Put the phone down, drink water, and take 5 breaths. Send one apology line, or send the kind no you already wrote. Then return to the table, open the folded paper, and place one small mark next to direction. A whole day may be off course. One small mark is enough to turn the compass. There is one more stubborn illusion. The idea that awakening is fireworks that explode once and change everything. Perhaps it is that way for someone. For most of us, it is more like a stove light, a small flame that stays warm and cooks simple meals consistently. You light it each morning with one direction sentence. Keep it going through the day with one anchor, and prevent it from going out with one return chain. Those beautiful thought experiments, the brain in a vat and the experience machine, become seasoning. They remind us to be humble about what we see, gentle about where others are, and honest about what we can actually do today. Before we close this section, I want to return to you the most open question of the night, the one that has crossed every room without growing old. If you did not need to become someone else, and only needed to see clearly who is living in you right now, then tomorrow, where would you choose to live a little differently? Do not force an answer. Let it drift like a cool touch on the wrist. In the morning, when your hand touches the doorknob, you may already know which door to open first. A small promise to the night. A final ritual of closing and opening. We are not parting yet. There is one very short segment left. A closing and opening ritual, so the night has a place to lie down and tomorrow has a place to step. You can do it tonight or any night after this. Just 3 minutes, 3 doors, 3 breaths. First door. Return the world to outside the door. Sit on the bed with your back against the wall. Look around the room as if for the first time. Notice the corner of the table, the lamp, and the curtain that is partly closed. Name 5 things you see. Name 4 sensations you are touching, such as the warmth of the blanket, the coolness of the air, the hardness of wood, and the softness of the pillow. Listen for 3 sounds such as the fan, a distant car, and a heartbeat. Notice 2 scents such as soap and tea. Whisper 1 sentence. Here. You are unplugging the noisy machine. You are not resisting. You are changing the channel. Second door. Place the lamp on the day that has passed. Open a small notebook and write 3 lines. Write 1 short truth about something that happened. For example, today I raised my voice in the meeting. Write 1 boundary or 1 act of forgiveness you choose. For example, tomorrow at 9 we meet for 10 minutes to close the loop and I will apologize for my part. Write 1 thing you still appreciate. For example, thank you to a colleague for patience, and thank you to myself for returning to the table. Close the notebook. Do not analyze. Place a hand on your chest and take 3 breaths. You are lighting the memory just enough to learn and dimming it enough to sleep. Third door. Set a date with tomorrow's self. Write 1 direction for the next 24 hours. For example, gentle with the truth. Write 1 anchor of 25 minutes for the hardest task and choose the exact time. Write 1 return chain for what to do in 30 seconds if you slip. Place the paper where your eyes will meet it in the morning, such as the doorknob or the mirror. Inhale 5 breaths. Whisper 2 passwords. Enough? And continue tomorrow. Turn out the lights. If you do not fall asleep right away tonight, name the state. I rest. Change the goal. Do not chase sleep. Simply lie still so the body can do its part. Count down from 10 to 1 with each exhale. If you get bored, start again from 10. When the brain tries to pull you away with thoughts about email or projects, remember that no good decision is born at 2 in the morning. You have already set the lamp and made your date. The night knows how to handle the rest. If you want one last story that is very short and just a small fold, imagine a quiet room with an hourglass. Each grain that falls is an old reflex slipping down. Underneath, a record player is spinning a thin song. It is the sound of your footsteps in the hallway, the sound of a teacup being set down, the sound of an apology that is not forced, the sound of a kind no, the sound of keys in a 25-minute deep work block, and the sound of a gate closing softly before sleep. The song has no climax. It will never trend, but if you listen long enough, you will recognize it. It is your song, and it is beautiful enough for you to stay. When you wake, everything may still be messy, just like any ordinary day. That is fine. You do not need a dramatic transformation. You need a small tilt toward your direction, a small tilt you already promised. When your hand touches the doorknob, remember that you have never left the room. You simply step out, carrying the room with you. When the night returns, if you are lost, knock lightly. The door will open as it always has. Thank you for walking along. We are not ending. We are closing softly. The rest is your breathing, the heartbeat of the room, and one small question for you to carry into sleep. Among the countless things I cannot control, what is one thing I will hold just right tomorrow? Sleep well.